Let me just bring you a bit of an update on those provisional figures from the Home Office that we brought you a little bit earlier on. They are saying this morning that 703 migrants were detected crossing the English Channel yesterday. Now, that would be the highest number on a single day since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, and the third highest daily number so far this year. They are saying that the cumulative number of arrivals by small boats so far this year stands at a provisional total of 18,342. And they say that this is 13% higher than the total at the equivalent point last year, which was 16,170, but 3% lower than the total at this stage the year before that. So the Home Office have put out these provisional figures saying that some 703 migrants detected crossing the Channel yesterday. These are pictures from this morning, and if those are confirmed, it would be the highest number on a single day since Keir Starmer was voted in as Prime Minister.
From the shoreline, it looks beautiful, but take a step out into Brennan Lake and you might feel something under your feet.
I can see the snails here because the bottom is sandy.
Residents say the Chinese mystery snail has invaded this lake, spreading by the thousands.
Each snail apparently can have over 150 live young. We're talking about ready to go little baby in the water.
Michael McCardle and Karina Rosenberg are allowed to pick up the snails because they have a permit.
Basically sifting through the muck at the bottom to collect them. You don't get a medal for this kind of work, that's for sure.
They say the snails are causing an imbalance in the ecosystem, and residents have to be careful not to step on them.
Turtles, which we've always had, are now incredibly abundant because I've seen them. They eat the snails. Raccoons and otters also like to eat them, and in the springtime, we literally have to shovel the empty shells off our beach because they come and eat them.
The municipality is aware of the problem. It's mandated a local organization to help with cleaning up the snails.
We're going to be living with those snails. I think it's almost impossible to eradicate them. But the thing is, we can control the population.
But the snails are not just in one lake. Quebec says they're present in several regions across the province. And Rawdon Mayor Raymond Rougeau says the Chinese mystery snail is living in several lakes within his community.
Right across from the lake on the other side, you see there's a beach there. I heard they picked up over 2,000 snails in a couple of days.
Tina Schmeller has a cottage along the water and says this year is particularly bad.
You can't walk a few feet without seeing them. The shells is quite thick, so they can cut you for sure.
And it seems no matter how many get picked up, they just seem to come right back.
You can't go in the water anywhere here without picking up hundreds of them. This is what an invasive species does. It displaces the native ones, so it disturbs the whole balance, the whole delicate ecosystem, especially of a small lake like this one.
The mayor says more cleanup operations will come, but the community knows it's fighting an uphill battle. Residents just hope with enough organization and effort, they can keep the problem at bay. Matt Grillo, CTV News, Rawdon.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, even if that includes staying in a loveless and an unhappy marriage, unfortunately. Ask some of the couples in the UK. They will tell you that everything has become so expensive there that unhappily married couples would rather stick it out than move out and live separately. And why is that, you ask? Because living separately means paying your own bill in its entirety. Who will you Dutch your rent with? What about the household goods and expenses? Who pays half of your energy bill? Better a partner you regret marrying, perhaps, than no one at all. This is not a joke. This is the reality of many couples in the UK. Do you think it's a coincidence that divorce rates in the UK are at the lowest level in more than 50 years? And it just so happens that inflation in the UK is in double digits. House rents have shot up. Mortgage costs have gone up. Owning a house has become extremely difficult for some and impossible for many. And together, all of this has made it extremely expensive to end a marriage. So what exactly are couples doing? Postponing divorce, shelving separation till the economy is better. I'm not saying this and making this up. This is what a British family lawyer told the US media. Last year, a survey conducted by Stowe Family Law found that 30% of the respondents there were with their partners because they could not afford to live alone. This, of course, is a far from ideal situation to be in. The married folks will tell you that marriage is never easy, but in the UK, you see, marriage has become especially difficult. And this is because of the toll that the economy is taking on people's personal lives. People are anxious, they are stressed. A survey published last week showed that 6% of the respondents are unhappy with their relationship. The number is the highest since 2014. Over 100 people were reportedly killed in Gaza over the weekend when Israeli forces struck a school in the eastern Gaza city. Palestinian news agency saying the victims were performing the dawn prayers when they were attacked. The IDF claims the strike was carried out using precise munition, adding, and I'm quoting here, it cannot cause the amount of damage that is being reported by the Hamas-run government office in Gaza. But paramedics and first responders say they saw bodies ripped to pieces.
The Israeli army has widened evacuation orders in Gaza. Those living in the Al-Jala neighborhood of Khan Yunis have been asked to vacate the area. Not too long ago, this area was classified as a safe humanitarian zone. Today, it's become a combat zone. For thousands, this reclassification means more suffering.
I've been displaced many times. It's not just once or twice, but at least 5 or 6 times. Almost as soon as we arrive somewhere, they order us to leave. I just arrived here and set up a tent 2 days ago, and now they are telling us to leave again. I have just arrived here. I have nowhere to go.
We are fleeing every day. We stayed here only 10 days before being forced to leave again. We are almost devastated with no place to go.
This is the fate of tens of thousands of people in Gaza. They have nowhere to go, and nowhere in Gaza is safe. According to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in Near East, over 75,000 people have been displaced in southwest Gaza in just the last few days. This weekend also saw one of the deadliest attacks on Gaza since the start of the war. On Saturday, Israel attacked the Al Tabin school in Gaza City. This school was being used as a shelter by thousands of displaced people. Palestinian news agency Wafa said the Israeli strikes targeted the displaced people while performing Fajr prayers, a matter that led to a rapid increase in the number of casualties. The attack killed at least 100 Palestinians. Paramedics at the scene say they saw bodies ripped to pieces.
What happened was, we heard the sound of an airstrike, we came to see what had happened, and we found out that the Israeli military had hit the building. Of course the building has civilians. Of course he's my cousin, him and his wife and his child. Unfortunately, we found their bodies in pieces, and until now we are still looking for the child's head.
Getting ready for the dawn prayer with the others, suddenly they were cut into pieces and became martyrs, and dozens of the wounded were taken to hospital.
Reports say Israel used an American-made bomb on this attack. the GBU-39 small diameter bomb, to be specific. This has not been confirmed by either side. The Israeli army released this video after the attack. This is the aerial view of the school compound and its mosque. In a statement, the IDF said, quote-unquote, the strike was carried out using 3 precise munitions, which, according to professional analysis, cannot cause the amount of damage that is being reported by the Hamas-run government office in Gaza. So far, over 100 schools have been destroyed in the war. Some 100 university professors and academics have been killed, as have 500 primary and secondary school teachers. $39,897 Palestinians have died since the 7th of October 2023. This is as per the health ministry of the Hamas-run government in Gaza. Israel's war objective is to finish Hamas. What then explains the death of the innocents? The Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics claims that Israeli forces have killed 1.8% of the Gaza Strip's population since the beginning of the war. As per this data, 75% of the victims are under 30. 16,456 of those killed were children. How many of them were Hamas? And how many more deaths will this war see before it finally ends? The US media is reporting that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar wants a ceasefire deal. That is also the message that mediators from Egypt and Qatar have conveyed to officials in Israel. If that's true, then the ball is once again in the court of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Will he agree to a ceasefire deal? Will Netanyahu take steps towards ending the war? The next round of ceasefire talks are scheduled for the 15th of August. But Hamas has cast doubt on its participation in these talks. In a statement, Hamas said, quote-unquote, the movement calls on the mediators to present a plan to implement what was agreed upon by the movement on July 2nd, 2024, based on Biden's vision and the UN Security Resolution. It is the 12th of August in 2024. This is day 311 of the war in Gaza.
Three ISIS-inspired teenage suspects in Austrian capital Vienna ahead of Taylor Swift's now-cancelled concert has sent shockwaves throughout the pop music world. The incident has also raised questions about Europe finding itself in the terrorist organization's crosshairs. The 19-year-old prime suspect was arrested from his home in the eastern town of Ternitz on Wednesday. A stockpile of chemicals, explosive devices, detonators, and 21,000 euros in counterfeit cash has been found and recovered from his residence. The other 2 arrested suspects are aged 17 and 15, respectively. The arrests have resulted in the cancellation of 3 sold-out Taylor Swift Eras Tour concerts in the country. They were scheduled to begin on Thursday and were expected to draw an estimated 170,000 fans, or Swifties as they call themselves.
Our Airbnb at minimum was $4,000, and then our flights were like $1,500, something like that, $1,500 to $2,500. So yeah, it's like a minimum of like $5,000, I think. That's not including like meals or anything like that. So yeah, just it's a good chunk of change for sure.
We went home, we changed in our concert outfits, and then we came back here just to try to enjoy a bit of her music and just, well, feel sorry, but also try to make the most of this experience.
It is not only Vienna. 4 ISIS-inspired teenagers suspected of planning Islamist terror attacks were arrested in Germany only this April. According to authorities, churches or synagogues were their possible targets. These may appear to be isolated incidents, but it is not so. A study by terrorism expert Peter Newman has revealed that teenagers accounted for nearly 2/3 of ISIS-linked arrests in Europe in the previous 9 months. The study of 27 ISIS-linked attacks or disrupted plots since October last year revealed that out of the 58 suspects, 38 were aged between 13 and 19. According to Newman, professor of security studies at King's College London, Newman noted that the latest Europol data showed the number of attacks and planned attack has more than quadrupled since 2022. Teenagers were also arrested during France's security sweep ahead of the Paris Olympics, and in April, a 16-year-old from the Haute-Savoie department in southeastern France was arrested for allegedly researching how to make an explosives belt and die as an ISIS martyr. Another alleged plot involving a possible knife attack on a Heidelberg synagogue in Germany, which was disrupted in May, involved an 18-year-old. Meanwhile, in Switzerland, police in March arrested a 15-year-old Swiss boy and a 16-year-old Italian boy for alleged ISIS support and plotting bomb attacks. According to Newman, teenagers are often recruited online, where ISIS only needs to see success in a handful from hundreds of potential recruits. A view also shared by defense agencies and experts across Europe say so.
With just 1 week until the Democratic National Convention, security officials are preparing for possible retaliatory attacks against Democrats after former President Donald Trump was shot last month. Let's discuss now with someone who knows the underworld of political violence all too well, former FBI informant Joe Moore. He went undercover inside the KKK and even helped stop a planned assassination of former President Barack Obama. He's recounting these experiences in his new book, White Robes and Broken Badges. Joe, it's a very important book. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. I do want to ask you a little bit about your book in a moment, but a threat assessment released by the FBI and Homeland Security says, quote, individuals in some online communities have threatened, encouraged, or referenced acts of violence in response to the attempted assassination. Obviously, we should note there hasn't been any political motive established for the man who tried to kill Donald Trump at that rally last month. But what do you think is driving this rise in political violence, what we're seeing on the far right, for example, these days?
There are a lot of online communities that are associating with one another, a sort of cross membership between these organizations. However, it's not all online. There are geographical and generational connections to the hate that many of these groups are part of. And with the advent of social media and other avenues, they're able to connect with one another. And these organizations are able to grow, and I guarantee you that it's more than just individuals that are discussing these activities. I am certain that there are organizations that are discussing this sort of violence.
And your book looks at how the alt-right, as it's been called by some, and white supremacists infiltrate the political and legal worlds to reach their goals. What have you uncovered? How does your life experience, affect your thinking on this? What do you think?
I uncovered local, county, and state level law enforcement officers that were active members of the KKK and were essentially using their positions in law enforcement to assist KKK activities. And unfortunately, many officials were not willing to recognize how prevalent and consequential these activities were, and I was able to actually gather the facts for the FBI.
And when you see Trump dining with white nationalist Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago, questioning the racial identity of Vice President Harris, how much fuel to the fire does that add?
That is absolutely a green flag to the alt-white movement and the white nationalist movements. Furthermore, it's not always what you see, it's what you don't see that could certainly indicate what the issue is. What I don't see are the bookend statements by the campaign in order to dictate to these organizations that they are not welcome, their activities are not appreciated.
And how worried are you that we could see some of these white nationalist groups being involved in movements to overturn the election like they did 4 years ago? I mean, one of the things that we saw on January 6th, the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, groups like that.
In 2015, when I came out to prosecute several cases. The KKK nationally was essentially decimated, and many of those members went to other like-minded organizations. So I know that a lot of those alt-right organizations contain former Klan members, and there's a lot of ideological similarity between them. Furthermore, in secret, they really do discuss using violence as a method to sort of take over the country. And many of these organizations say publicly that they're simply using their First Amendment rights. However, they have to say that in order to cover for the violence that they truly intend to employ.
Yeah, well, it's chilling stuff. And Joe, we're going to check out your book to learn more about all of this. Joe Moore, thank you very much for your time. The author of White Robes and Broken Badges, very important book from Joe Moore. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Робили по цілі, ну ціль не знищена. Прийняв плюс, в укриття. Плюс.
Особливо з зілушки не тільки працювати по повітряним цілям, але і по легко броньовані. Так що якщо вдруг що, прямою наводкою